Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we're so excited today. We have the star of this weekend's A Very Vermont Christmas with us. We have Ryan McPartlin here. And Ryan, thank you so much for coming back. This is your second time on
Yeah,
the
well, thanks for
podcast.
having me. Yeah, it's good to be
Yeah.
back.
Last time you were on with for Twinkle All the Way with Sarah and
Yep.
Brian. And that was so fun.
They are amazing. And we've been trying to figure out how to work together again
Oh,
since we go
please.
all the way.
I love that movie so much. We'll be talking.
Yeah.
I'll be asking you some questions about that because we
Well,
didn't really
Sarah's
get
going to
a
be on
chance.
Hallmark. She's going to be doing a new series on Hallmark. I'll just throw a
Yeah.
plug out for you, Sarah Drew. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really get a chance to really talk to you though, because it was, it was when you have three
Yeah.
people, three
Wow.
guests. So I'm so grateful that you came on the pod and we get to meet you.
I'm happy to be here.
Yes. So this is your first time for an interview. And so we like to get to know you a little bit better of what inspired you to get into acting. How did you get started?
It's a really good question. I mean, I think the cliche answer is fame and money. Since neither of those
Yeah.
worked out, I stuck around for the storytelling.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
honestly, I think that I was a communications major in college at University of Illinois, and I never had an interest in doing a 9 to 5 job. And I don't think there are a lot of 9 to 5 jobs anymore, like when
Yeah,
I was
that's
coming
true.
up. So everybody's kind of becoming a gig worker, and we're the original gig workers.
Hmm.
But I was always inspired by stories. And then I think it all culminated when I saw the movie Braveheart.
Oh,
And when
yeah.
I came out of my seat, when I think it was Miriam, when she was murdered, and he wasn't there to rescue her. I was like, what just like I just screamed in the theater. I was like, what is happening right now? And I was so mad and I was so moved by it. I was like, I think I want to do that for a living.
Uh-huh.
And so I came out to be Braveheart, and I ended up on Passions instead.
All right. Yeah, so you grew up in the Midwest and then you moved to LA
Yep.
and you
Yep.
just start
Well,
auditioning.
it was probably about 6. Listen, there's a lot. We could be on for hours.
Yeah.
I tell you my stories, but I started out doing a little bit of modeling. My brother had done some modeling in the Chicago area, so I was like, oh, if he did it,
Uh-huh.
I could do it. Not that easy, and not a good world for male models. I'll just say that
Uh-huh.
for
Yeah.
anybody, for
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
Modeling sucks. Anyhow, but it helped. Like
Yeah.
it helped get a couple bills paid, and then I did a couple commercials. And every time I was ready to quit and go back home to Chicago, one more job would pop up.
Yeah.
And so when I did Abercrombie at the time, it was a really big deal.
Yeah.
And I think that when I got on Passions, they were using that for the publicity. Like we hired this Abercrombie model, which was kind of a big thing at the time.
Yeah.
Then I didn't realize how much I had to learn at that point. Like I was taking very serious acting classes, but when you don't know how to hit your mark and you don't
Uh-huh.
know like the cameras, and you're like, oh my God, am I doing
Yeah.
it? Did I just look in the camera? Oh God, I think I looked in the camera. How am I going to
Well, they
remember my
filmed
line?
so many pages for those soaps. I mean, it's
Well, the
unbelievable.
thing is, like, it's all those things that you have nightmares about, right? Like you go, oh, I know I'm going to go blank. And it's like any actor thinks that there's going to be it on stage or whatever. And you get the worst advice when you first come to LA, like, don't just lock the words in because you want it to be fresh and organic. And you hear
Yeah.
those things. I remember getting an agent and kind of BSing my way into this big agency at the time, which is now WME. And and they'd send me out for these auditions, and I didn't have it memorized. And you could see, like, and when you don't have something memorized,
Yeah.
it's like you'll be talking and you go, and then he did this, and like it's the worst.
Yeah.
You just go like, what is this person doing? Like you're not prepared at all.
Yeah.
You have it memorized, then let it go,
Yeah.
and then you go. So there's so much I could talk about on that, but I know we don't have the time. But I'll say that every time I was willing, even when I was on Passions, after a few years of that, which I thought was a great experience, but it wasn't like I was going to do that the rest of my life. I was like,
Yeah.
I really miss my family. I really miss my friends in Chicago. And I just got engaged to who is still my wife, Danielle. And we're both from Illinois. And I was like, do we really want to stay here and do this just to be on this soap opera? I was like, let's get off of it and let's see what's next, or let's go
Uh-huh.
back to the Midwest because I love the Midwest. And 25 years later, I still think about at least living there part of the time.
Well, I saw on your IMDb that your first listed credit was for The Nanny, and so it
Yeah.
made me wonder, did that help you at all with like connections to get living with Fran?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Actually, I was cast before Fran accepted the job. It
Oh.
was called Shacking Up, and it was Jamie Kennedy and some of his buddies. Josh Edding was a producer too, who's still a friend of mine. And it was one of those things that when I decided to leave the soap opera, I was still working on the soap, but I was auditioning for what was next because my time was coming to an end.
Uh-huh.
And I remember walking in and doing the read, and I'd memorized it. By this time, I figured out, memorized the damn
Yeah.
audition. And I remember the look on everyone's face. And it was kind of like I just screwed up, like I just took a dump in the room. And I was like, oh, all right, well, I'll see you guys later. And came to learn later that like all the guys, I think Jamie was promoting his movie somewhere, so he wasn't there. But it was all the producers and the writers and Josh Edding. They're all looking at each other and looking at me a little confused. I was the first guy that read for it. They never read another guy for that part yet. And as I came in and I nailed it, they're like, well, that can't be the guy. I mean, it's the
Yeah,
first guy
except for
we
the
just
first
read. Like,
guy.
you got to go through a bunch of people and then think about it. And they're all just like looking at each other and looking at me. I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think that went well. Then I got to test for it. And I
Uh-huh.
won't say his name. He's still working, really solid actor. But going back to being prepared, he had already done a couple series on the WB, which is now the CW. And when he walked up and we were testing, it was like only a handful of guys. It's called screen testing, right? So you're
Right,
testing.
right.
And um, and as I'm testing for it and I'm waiting outside of the room as everybody's coming in, all the executives from the WB came in and they said to this other actor, they said, oh my, is this going to be your third series with us? Oh my God. And it was just like, okay, I don't have this one. And that's fine. I'm like, it's not mine. I'll go. But I went into the bathroom and I was sweating so much that I remember just shoving all these paper towels into into my armpits. And I go, oh man. I don't know if, and I think that as I stepped out, I'm just gonna leave him in there for a sec. As I stepped out, I think they called my name and I was like, oh no, these are gonna fall out while during the audition. So I was so worried about these paper towels falling out of my shirt. And I was reading with Ben Feldman, great actor.
I love him.
And it was great because I was always like, oh, I'm too tall. I'm too tall. Like everyone has their thing of why
Yeah.
they don't have the part. I'm like, you know what? This other actor seems to have it locked down. I'm gonna go in there and have some fun. Forget the paper towels, forget everything. I'm just gonna go have a good time and do it like this is it. This is my performance. And I did, and I felt that in the room again where everybody looked at me and they're like, really? And I've came to find out that the other actor wasn't prepared. He still wasn't off the script. He did what I did wrong a long time ago because he just
Yeah.
thought it's his,
Yeah.
It was his to lose, and thankfully he did not prepare because
Yeah.
I'm sure he would have been the guy. But that really got me into prime time, which
Yeah.
is you have your daytime television and you have your prime time, and
Uh-huh.
it felt like a big leap for me. And then Fran agreed to come on board. There was a lot of other conversations. I think, oh, who was it? I think there were some conversations about, I don't know if it was some established sitcom actors that were so different at the time. But once Fran came on board, it was the Fran show, man, and it just
Yeah.
brought it to life. And
Yeah.
and by the way, it felt like I was auditioning again because I knew Fran could just replace me in a heartbeat, and thank God she didn't,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it was new for me, even though I'd done the nanny. She didn't remember I did the nanny. She's like,
Hmm.
"What? You were on the nanny?" And she did the laugh, and I
Oh,
was like, "Oh
yeah.
my God." Um, and she looked back, she's like, "Oh my God, that was you. Oh, Ryan." And I was like, "Oh man." So it always felt like I'll put it this way, because it was like the Ashton to me kind of relationship
Uh-huh.
playing off of. And while I was on Passions, I had a live feed to watching the rehearsals of that '70s show. And it was really weird time at CBS Radford, because you can watch everybody's rehearsals and they'd watch ours. And everyone was like, what was that? What was that? How were we able to watch every different sound stage and what they were doing? I remember watching Ashton going, I think I could do that type of acting. I think I could like tap into that. And then I was playing that character more or less. I kind
Uh,
of down character that he was playing. I think Kelso was his name on '70 Show. And then Fran was always like, no, don't play that too dumb. Like I want this to be a real relationship. You're younger, but I got to see something in you that
yeah.
you know. So it was always fun, because I always said that, growing up, people are like, "Oh, you must have had it so easy." And I said, "No, I was a late bloomer, but the moms always liked me more than the daughters." I was just a really
Yeah.
respectful kid.
Yeah. Well, it must
So
have
it
been
worked for me.
it must have been amazing for you though, having worked with her to see her like blossom as this incredible leader.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we talked a lot during. I
Yeah.
love the fact that she used a quote that I gave her a long time ago, because after Chuck, after living with Fran, after a bunch of movies that I'd been in, I said, Fran, I'm streaming on An LA's Finest with Jessica Alba and Gab Union, and that was on Netflix. Living with Friends on Hulu. Chuck's on Max, but it's been on Netflix and everything else. I said, I'm streaming on 3 different platforms and I'm making hundreds of dollars. And
Right. Yeah.
he goes, "Oh my God, that's stuck in my mind, Rye. And that's not right." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"That's the agreement we made." Like before, when you get syndication, like people don't understand that, there's a couple lead actors that make like the quarterback money on an NFL team
Sure.
makes the most money. And then everyone else is kind of a working football player that isn't going to be set for life. So we got to keep working. And then the protections we have are the syndication and revenue sharing is what keeps us afloat in those years that we're not series regulars and that we're
Right.
struggling to pay the bills. So that when you kill that type of revenue stream, um, Fran really understood that like we have to support that, because otherwise you don't have a strong workforce. You can't have actors that can live in expensive areas where you film, like Los Angeles or even Atlanta now. And it's very difficult. It's a very difficult to sustain this type of living. And I've lived in the same house for 21 years, driven the same car for 12 years. It's like it's a very conservative lifestyle I
Yeah.
live, just so that
Yeah.
I can take those big swings and stay in the acting business.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember George Clooney talking once about when he first got started, he would buy his suits a size bigger so that he could make a tie out of his suits.
I bet. I bet.
You don't think of stuff like that with some,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think
Well,
he's the guy that understands too what it's like.
yeah.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Yeah. Well, let's real quick ask about Chuck, because I know some of the listeners are big fans. That must have been a blast to be a part of.
Chuck was like, again, I could talk hours, and we're actually going to do a Chuck rewatch podcast. I want to say in the fall.
Yeah.
There's talks of that right now with Zach and Josh Gomez.
That'll be fun.
So that'll be really fun. Chuck was one of those roles that I say, I had an agent years ago that would say the role finds you. And, if it's your role, you just can't mess it up. But I actually did. I tanked the test of that. It wasn't for not being prepared. I just had my firstborn and I didn't have any sleep. And it was a lot of pressure. It was last end of the pilot season. And what was fun is the role of Captain Awesome. I came to find out that a lot of the actors that auditioned for it were a little condescending towards Zach Levi, towards Chuck. And because they were so awesome. They came in and they're cocky and they're awesome. And that's not me. I'm a guy who's got an inner Tony Robbins that I want everybody to succeed. I want you to be awesome.
Yeah.
I want you to be the one to climb the mountain right next to me. And by the way, if you slow down, I'm going to get back. I'm not racing you. I'm going to come back down and help you up. And so that's how I always saw that character. And so when I did it once really well, and then the next time, I tanked it because there was various reasons. Lack of sleep was a big one. Having a newborn really messed with me. And, but they said, Ryan, just hold the pages, do it again. Cause I think they knew that I was the guy. But I said, nah, I'm good, guys. Good luck with the show. And I just pounded it out to each one of them. Josh Schwartz, Zach, Fedak, McGee. I was like, good luck. I'm like, I'm out of here. That's it. I can't do anything more. And I don't know. I talked to Chris Fedak during the strike because we were on the picket line together. He doesn't even remember it. To me, it was such a huge moment in my life because I remember going, that could have made my career. That could have been the role. And I just blew it. I sat in my car, tears in my eyes. Agent calls, listens to, all the reasons why I screwed up. And she held at the end. She goes, well, you got the job. I was like, what? How can I
like, what?
And then to their credit, and I still don't know if they remember this or not, if they intentionally, if it was just in their subconscious, but they wrote Captain Awesome where, when he really gets into the thick of the spy world, he crumbles. And that's where Zach and Chuck shine. Right?
Yeah.
I thought it was such a smart move because it was like what the audition was. I was like, oh yeah, this guy's got it all together, but he not always, sometimes he can really take a turn south if it's outside of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
So I thought they did a great job of that. And they also like to make fun of me because I think I was driving a minivan by the end of Chuck because, it was a family car. So I'd roll up in a minivan, and one of their lines and they got paid by Toyota for this. It was like one of Ellie's lines were, all of a sudden my hot husband is driving a minivan. And she was having a meltdown. I was like, it's not just any minivan. It is a Toyota Sienna with all the bells and whistles, babe. And we got paid a lot of money from Toyota for that.
I'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's Elise Murray and her exciting book, Society Girl. Set in the mysterious world of Oxford University's secret societies, Society Girl follows Sam, a Duke's estranged daughter, as she attempts to join the most famous club of them all, the Animos Society. Her final initiation challenge is simple. Find a man, convince him she's in love with him, and then break his heart in humiliating fashion. Hardened by her father's rejections, believing that the Animos Society is her key to his love and acceptance, Sam throws herself into making Dano Best, her father's chauffeur and local musician, fall for her. But she never counted on falling in love with him right back. Fans of Colleen Hoover, Anna Hong, and Mia Sheridan will love Society Girl, a sweeping romance from bestselling novelist and screenwriter Elise Murray. Free for Kindle Unlimited users for a limited time. Go to elisemurray.com/novels/Society Girl for more information. Or you can use the affiliate link below. So how did you get on this holiday movie, Christmas movie team? Like how did that all happen? Well, Holly's Holidays, first one, right?
Yeah, man, I think,
Would you love
like
that?
like I said, when you have gaps as an actor, first of all, I always love Christmas movies. I'm a huge Christmas fan. In college, most guys aren't like this, but I was like, we're getting a tree. My roommates are like, what are you talking about? My one roommate was Jewish, the
I
other
love
didn't
that.
celebrate. And they was like, I go, no, we're getting a tree. I don't care if you want to put anything from Hanukkah on it, we're getting a tree, and we ended up we're gonna have a Christmas party and we're gonna decorate and we're gonna like do all this stuff. And for all the guys out there, or the college age kids, it's funny. I used to brush up on like my soap operas, my things that women were interested in,
Yeah.
just to be able to speak their language.
Right.
And then it just kind of, with the Christmas, it just kind of stuck because I just get so happy around Christmas time. So I was always into it. So when the Holly's Holiday was probably the first one I did, I think so. And for me, I didn't love it because I didn't end up with the girl in that. I wasn't the one I was the villain,
Right.
But it was good. It was a good movie. It was fun.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
And I think the audience enjoyed it, but I really liked sinking my teeth into the story aspect. And then, it's always those things of you're really grateful when you get a movie of the week like that, or a TV movie like that. It used to be called Movies of the Week when they'd be on like CBS or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd be grateful to get the work.
Yeah.
And then once I was in it and they did well, I think the one with Mayim Bialik that I did was Flight Before Christmas on Lifetime, really did well for Lifetime. And they then started coming to me and saying, hey, are you interested in this role, that role, whatever it might be? And now I'm to the point where like I'll develop some of the movies, I'll executive produce them, just because once you're in the world, you know the formula, but then you want to make it a little more fresh. And that's my goal, always to make it a little more fresh, a little more exciting, something that they don't see coming.
We appreciate that. Well, Twinkle All the Way, I love that movie so much. I think it is such a sweet little movie. And it manages, because one of the weird things about these movies is usually wedding movies I do not like, because I don't like Bridezilla. I don't like all of that drama. But this, I loved the wedding so much. And when you make her view.
Oh, how about that? It was great. That Twinkle All the Way was so special.
There were so many swoon-worthy scenes.
It came together. I would almost compare it to, I didn't get to do theater as a kid. I was into football. I was into sports.
Yeah.
And that was my theater camp with Brian Sills and Sarah Drew. And we danced, and the behind the scenes was as much fun as the movie. And that came across on screen, I think, in a way that, and I didn't see it coming. Even when Brian and I were playing brothers, and the first day I was like, this guy's not what I expected. He's like 5 foot nothing. And as soon as he said his first lines, I was like, he's amazing. I was like, he is amazing. And I couldn't be happier to have him playing this part. And I looked for, obviously, Holiday Fix Up. He was on. Sarah Drew got to work with him again on her Reindeer Games one. And he is incredible. And he's still kind of a hidden gem.
Yes.
Waiting to have a big breakout. Because he deserves his own movie at this point.
I agree. And I mean, you got Cinderella herself, Leslie Ann Warren there. I mean, unbelievable.
Leslie was a trip, man. She was so funny because at one point, we were working late nights, and she comes out and she's like, I think she knew me as my character's name, and then our director goes, "Hey, okay, you're gonna stand by Ryan." She goes, "Who the hell is Ryan?" I was like, that's perfect. Thank you, Leslie.
Yeah.
She was so fun, and she was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, all right." I was like, "Thanks,
Yeah.
thank you."
And I
So,
love the two little girls. I mean,
oh,
were
adorable, and that was,
absolutely adorable.
you know, our
Want to be
director.
Brian's daughter.
Yeah, so she played my daughter, Brian's daughter, Brian Herzlinger's daughter, and she's gonna be a star.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way around it.
Yeah.
She's in every one of his movies, and she has a normal childhood on top of it. You don't get
Right.
to both usually.
Yeah. Well, so then when you did Clusterfunke, what was that like? I mean, how much of that movie was improv? How much was,
Funny enough, not a lot. Like
okay. Okay.
I mean, maybe for them they'd throw some stuff in,
Uh-huh.
Rachel and Anna Gasteyer,
Uh-huh.
Rachel Dratch, because they're the queens of
Yeah,
improv
for
and they're
sure.
amazing. But to me, it was like I was so nervous just to make them laugh and just to go, they're heroes of mine, and I just want to
Sure.
hit the beats. I want to say the words that they have written and make them funny, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it looked like, I mean, I thought it was really funny. And it's hard to pull off that kind of parody because sometimes it can just feel mean-spirited. But you could tell that they genuinely really loved these Christmas movies they were parodying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They worked hard on that one to make sure it was accurate, that they could tell a story and not really just make fun of it, but really celebrate it
Yeah.
and say, okay, this is hilarious that these
Yeah.
cliches that happen over and over again, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I enjoyed it. And
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
all right, well, let's talk about your new movie, A Very Vermont Christmas. So you play a skier in this, right?
I am not a skier. I'm actually a guy who is a little challenged
Oh,
at
she's the
skiing.
skier.
She's the
Got
skier.
it. Got it.
So Katie Leclerc is playing Joy Keough. Keough. Man, it's a weird last name to say. I was like, you guys couldn't go with Smith, you know? And then, I play Zach Chase, and
Name.
yeah. So I'm like a beer connoisseur. I'll put it that
Okay.
way. And she has a little tavern called Mogul Joe's, and I actually wanted to bring my sweatshirt out. It's too hot to put it on right now,
Right.
but it's Mogul Joe's Brewery.
Nice.
And the name of the beer, which will be a real beer, by the way, is Hoppy Holiday.
Brilliant.
That
Yeah.
was almost the title of the movie.
That's a good name. That was the title?
There was a discussion of Hoppy Holiday as the title, but A Very Vermont Christmas, I think, just kind of rolled off the tongue a little easier. They didn't want to confuse it with an Easter meets.
Oh, yeah. I guess I can see that.
Yeah. So yeah, it was funny because there's like a skiing event and it's Christmas, and there was she runs a brewery. And I was like, you guys are really missing something here. And during the development phase, I was like, it's a brewski movie. A brewski, come on.
Right.
So we had the brewski festival. So it made its way
You gotta
into
have a festival.
Yeah, so it was a brewski festival. So watch, like it's gonna take, and it's all started here. Let's just say A Very Vermont Christmas. You're gonna see brewski festivals in every ski town now. Um, and it's a really cute, fun little movie. And you know, Margaret Huddleston and Stephanie Slack are producers, and they're the ones who brought me into it. John Stimson um, is the director and producer too, and he has a great little world out there outside of Boston, in Massachusetts, where we were in Worcester, and they have a ski town called Wachusett, yeah, a ski mountain,
Yeah.
which is a family-run ski mountain with his in-laws. And I have to tell you, I was blown away with how much fun it was. It's nothing like, Aspen or any of these places, but on the East Coast, if I had my family living out there, I would be at Wachusett Mountain all the time because great restaurants, great little brewery in there, fire pits, it's all the makings of a perfect Christmas movie. So
Yeah.
Martin, Stephanie, and John were talking about doing this for a long time, and I feel like Katie Leclerc is his kind of muse in a way because she's been in a lot of his
Oh, has he?
movies. Yeah, it's like Molly Ringwald and John Hughes,
Uh-huh.
without the creepiness. There's no creep. I know there's a lot of retrospect on that, but these two, they make the best movies, and it's like a little family out there. And
Oh,
we had a blast. I got to ski. I got to do a little bit of beer tasting, even though it was
uh-huh.
non-alcoholic. And yeah, it was amazing.
So this was filmed in the winter then,
It
actually.
was. It
So
was
that's
filmed
nice.
this winter. It was right after the new year. So we were done and ready that they said, hey, we could do this for Christmas in July.
Uh-huh. That's
So,
nice because then you just because a lot of times they are forced to do skating scenes because because it's in the middle of summer, so they have to
yeah,
do scenes
totally.
in
And
skating
usually I'm
rink.
sweating.
Yeah.
And they can't cover it up. And no matter what kind of special effects you have, you can't, when this gets drenched, it's like there is no saving
Yeah.
it. And you just
Yeah.
go, okay, let's cut away quick from Ryan. Cut away quick.
Yeah, and they'll be in like Alaska with like completely open coat, no scarf. It's like,
That's
okay, you're
right.
not selling
Right.
it here.
And you're like, yeah, it's unseasonably warm right now.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So did you spend a lot of time in like filming in a brewery itself,
We
or
did. There was a
yeah?
couple different ones that just were fantastic. And we had one that was the more modern Frosties, it was considered, and then the old Mogul Joe's, which was Katie's late father in the movie, Joy,
Oh, okay.
the character
Yeah.
of Joy. So her late father was Mogul Joe.
Uh-huh.
And I worked for the big beer company, and I just so happened to study a lot about the history of craft beer before this movie. I read
Uh-huh.
a book on it, and
Uh-huh.
then when this came around, I said, "Oh, well, I think I can add some layers to this, and we can discuss the script." So I jumped on as an executive producer as well, so that we can really shape it up so it felt as authentic as possible to the beer lover world and to the skiing world, because
Uh-huh.
that's John Stimson's family and their specialty, they love it. So we brought those two together, and I thought it was such a great, it was a great little film to just say, let's do something that we're interested in,
Yeah.
that we would get really passionate about.
That's nice. That sounds really fun. So when you're assigned somebody like Katie, like what do you do to kind of help build the chemistry, make it believable on screen?
We went out and got a beer together.
Hmm. Yeah.
We did
Yeah.
in LA. We
Uh-huh.
and she was wonderful, and it was one of those things that I knew of her work on Switch. Was it Switched at Birth? Is that the name? Uh Man, I think that was
That
the
sounds
series
right.
it
Yeah.
was on.
Yeah.
I think so. Um and yeah, but I was aware of her work, and she and I got a beer. And then it's funny because it becomes a therapy session. When you talk to
Mhm.
other actors before you work together, you're like, oh, tell me about yourself. It's kind of like doing these podcasts. It's
Yeah.
like it becomes a little bit of a therapy session of what your experience was. And, Katie and I started around the same time. She's younger than I am, but she started, in her teens working. So it was interesting to share the stories of different casting experiences. So for the audience, now casting is done like this on a video and a tape
Yeah.
in your house, and it's horrible
Self-tapes.
because
Yeah.
the energy you get in person is so different. You get to know somebody's idiosyncrasies and their little quirks and all those things in between takes. And that's where you end up hiring people a lot of times. And you just go, oh no, that's what I can work with. It's my story of getting the job on Chuck.
Right.
As I pounded it out with everybody, like, good job, guys. Good luck with everything. You guys are gonna do great. I was still rooting for them, even though I just failed at my audition. And I think they loved that. I think they're like, that's the guy. And so our experience of those stories we were sharing of what things used to be and what they are now and how to adjust in this new world really it was just a good connection. It was a good connection that we had so many people in common. And she also brought on Brett Davern to play, who they do podcasts together. And Brett is hilarious. Like he he wouldn't have anything to do. And there's just some guys that still, even though they don't have the lines or whatever, it's Brian Sills, same
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll steal
Oh,
a
cool.
moment. They can still steal a moment
Yeah.
and just go, oh, that works. That's funny. Let's
Uh-huh.
use that. And I'm glad he came to play because he's a really talented actor. And he actually stepped away, from acting to focus on his podcast for a while. And I'm glad he's back into it. This was his toe back in the
Well,
water.
that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited for the movie. Real quick, we like to ask you some rapid fire Christmas questions to
Okay.
end the interview. Okay, first question. What is your favorite holiday drink?
Favorite holiday drink? Oh, man. I'm just gonna go with that's a hard one. I think you know what?
Hot cocoa or is
Well,
popular.
I would say like an eggnog martini is what I
Eggnog.
want to try because that came to mind. So if I'm going to just say what kind of an eggnog martini is something I want, but I'd say real hot cocoa with real milk, even though I'm mostly dairy free,
Uh-huh.
and real whipped cream.
Oh,
We're going to
sounds
go
good.
totally authentic hot cocoa.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. What is your favorite holiday cookie or treat?
It, man, I think the green wreath cookies that
Oh,
are
okay.
made from
Yeah.
is it cornflakes and like
Oh, okay. Yeah.
the dye and it was like melted marshmallows and then the two
Yeah.
like red hots on it.
It was so funny when we asked this question of Brian. He was talking about his mom's shortbread recipe. And then she emailed us the next day after it aired. And she's like, my son talking about a shortbread recipe.
That's
And
amazing.
emailed it to us and everything. It was
That's
really cute.
amazing.
It's really funny. Okay. What is your favorite Christmas song or carol?
Little Drummer Boy.
Okay.
The version with Cousin Bing, by the way.
Okay. And
We call him
David
Cousin
Bowie.
Bing because Bing Crosby was like, I don't know if he's a sixth cousin or an eighth
Oh.
cousin, but he's definitely in the family tree for the McPartlins, even though none of us can sing Cousin Bing.
Okay. What is your favorite classic Christmas movie?
Classic Christmas movie, I'm going to go right off the top of my head is Christmas Story.
Uh-huh.
Try and watch it every year.
Yeah.
Christmas Vacation is a close second.
Those are good ones. I like those too. Okay. Which do you like better, Scrooge or the Grinch?
Scrooged or the Grinch?
No,
or
just
Scrooge.
the characters.
Oh, the characters.
Scrooge or the
The
Grinch.
The Grinch.
They're both characters who hate Christmas who come root for him.
Yeah. I'd say the Grinch because
Okay, Grinch.
I love the ending of the Grinch and how his heart grows. What
Three sizes.
Three
Yeah,
sizes.
yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Which do you like better, clear lights or colored?
This is a debate that's ongoing of what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Man, it's tough because now you have the LED problem. right?
Right.
So it's not like
Yeah.
the
It's
old
fancy.
school colored lights that bring out the nostalgia. Sometimes you go, ooh, I'm not sure about those. Um, I have, believe it or not, on my Christmas tree, a mix of both. I
Okay.
go clear and colored. But
That's
I
funny.
would say if I was going to be safe, I'm going to go clear.
Clear.
If
Okay.
I'm getting crazy, I'm going color. So this
Okay.
rapid fire is taking much too long.
Yeah, yeah. Which do you like better? Or which would you rather do? Be in a snowball fight or build a snowman?
Snowball fight.
Okay. Or would you consider yourself a good gift wrapper or not?
Terrible gift wrapper. And
Okay.
I'm not joking when I say my mother-in-law is the best. I mean, they had a ton of Hallmark stores.
Uh-huh.
She has a gift wrapping station that was built into her basement
Oh
because
my
she is
gosh.
the best Christmas wrapper ever.
And do you have an ugly Christmas sweater?
I just collect them from the movies that
Uh-huh.
I've been on
Yeah.
because there's always that scene with an ugly Christmas sweater. So yes, I have a
Yeah.
few of them.
If you're going to Chicago, you need to have lots of sweaters.
Yeah,
It's freezing there.
I feel like that whole ugly Christmas sweater is in need of a makeover. I feel
Yeah.
like there's got to be a new thing of going like, what's the best Christmas sweater out there? You know, and have a little like fashion show
Yeah.
of
You're like, mine aren't ugly. What's wrong with you?
yeah, it's not ugly. But you know, in this what I wanted to throw in our last movie was like the guy, it was an ugly Christmas sweater contest, and
Uh-huh.
we were like, oh yeah, you know, well, at least you're dressed for it. And he was like, what? Like he didn't think it was an ugly Christmas
Yeah.
sweater,
Yeah.
you know? And then so that'll be in my next movie.
That's
It'll
that's
be in our
good.
Christmas wrapper movie.
Yes. All
I love
right.
it.
Good. Good. Well, thank you so much. This has been a blast. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course. You're so
And
great to talk to always. And thanks for having me back on. And Christmas in July, it's going to be a nice
yay,
little warm up, a
we
nice
need
little
it.
break and taste. We need more Christmas
Hmm.
joy in our life. No pun
Yes.
intended, because her name is Joy. Actually,
Well,
pun intended.
if people want to follow you on Instagram or wherever, how do they do that?
At Ryan McPartlin on Instagram. I think it's the same on TikTok, and which I don't post, so don't follow me there. But X, I'm gonna eventually start ramping up as soon as I can hire an assistant,
Uh-huh.
which might be never. As soon as my kids can get
Yeah.
into it with me, that they will
Uh-huh.
be my assistant.
Yeah. I think that's a solid plan.
Yeah, but at
Very
Ryan
good.
McPartlin on Instagram, I'm actually going to start putting some fun stuff leading up to this, and then I also have another movie coming out too.
Okay, cool. Great. Well, very good. It was so great to talk to you again. And Merry Christmas in July.
Yeah, Merry Christmas in July.
I'd like to thank Ryan for coming on the podcast. That was so much fun. I just thought he was so entertaining and personable and had such good stories. I just love that interview. I hope you all enjoyed it too. Let us know what you think about all the things we talked about in the comments section or on Twitter. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We so appreciate that. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our patron group and merch store where you can get tons of Christmas designs at the merch store. So please take a look at that. And thanks again to Ryan, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.